Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang, back at it with another video. So, remember how I told you that we left off in this position? Remember, the queen has plenty of play to the A file and controlling the A2 square, possibly trying to get the bishop. And the second objective is using this file to say, you know what, I'm going to play bishop takes e4, I'm going to threaten your queen, and I'm going to threaten your bishop. So what do I do here? Well, here I considered a few moves. I considered number one, playing the move queen to a4, right? But after queen a4, I looked at the endgame and I said, queen takes, pawn takes, and maybe after something like, I don't know, knight c5 could be one, bishop c6, or even rook a8 maybe, knight b6, yeah, just, if you look at rook a8, right, let's say rook a8, you kind of see the next move for the sort of plan for black is very easy to target these pawns, right? If this knight were on c3, that would be the dream, right? If this knight were here, then it could protect this and protect this, but it's here. And a pawn is in place, and this is a very defensive piece, right? So although we have an extra pawn, it's just so weak. So for example, bishop d6, knight b6, and that pawn is going to be gone, right? So it's not going to be very easy for me. So I said I can't queen trade right now. So then I have to figure out, okay, where do I move my queen, right? So number one, I could go back to e2, obviously. I could go to c4 and maybe target c7, potentially. Or I just move my queen, I don't know. I don't know where else to play. I was also considering knight takes e5, but that just simply fails after bishop takes e4, or something like that. No, I was wrong. Looks like after bishop takes e4, there is the move. Oh, there's bishop takes e4. Okay, so I was hallucinating. So this could have been an interesting variation, but instead it would have been countered by the move bishop c8. Who knew that such a move could be so sneaky, right? It's just threatening the knight, the bishop protects it, and at the same time, the rook threatens the queen. So, in essence, this move just says, I'm going to protect my guy, but I'm also going to remove the defender. So, very clever move. Luckily, I didn't play it. I played the move queen to c4, saying, you know, I might come here. I want to be greedy. Today's my day. But then c5 comes. So at this moment, I was considering the move bishop to a6, because it's very obvious that after this, I only have a few squares. I only have queen takes pawn, and I have the move queen to a4. That's it. I only have 2 squares, no more. So I said after queen takes c7, well, maybe bishop b5 and rook c8. So for example, bishop b5, right? Then what do I have to do? I have to find my way out. Pardon me. You know, sometimes the exhaustion gets the better of me. So yeah, in this position, I believe b4 is the only move, saying that, you know, after rook c8, I'm gonna just bring it back and then take rook a8, and we're at a very mediocre position for white, because maybe white has knight a3, maybe it's okay, but clearly it just feels like, you know, it feels like black has enough play to go, I'm going to come back here, I'm going to take here, I'm going to put my rook here, and I'm going to put pressure here, and all of a sudden it looks like white's structure is going to fall apart, right? So despite the fact that white has 2 extra pawns, it's that black has so much play for these weak 2 pawns, right? The bishop does a great job of just standing there, controlling the light squares and doing its job. So, I mean, bishop a6 was by all means probably the best move. But our friend NiceChessD played the move c5, and I said, bishop a6 is coming again, so I'm going to retreat. No? Ah, yes. Knight g5. That's what I played. So, part of it, you say, I'm intention to go here, and part of it says, I want to look toward f7, right? So, half of me was thinking about a very active role, just take or put pressure on f7, and here I followed through with it. But obviously, the move before I should have gotten punished with bishop to a6. It was not an easy move to see, given that you had to give up the c7 pawn, but we'll roll with it. Rook f8, queen e2, h6, knight f3. So you can see that now black has 5 pawns, right? And I have 6. So I'm up a pawn. And as a known fact, this is a comfortable pawn because, number one, these 2 pawns are guarded. This pawn's guarded. These guys are cool. And it's a comfortable pawn. Nothing's hanging. Bishop a6, now I simply say I'm going to shut down the diagonal. Why? I'm going to bring my knight out, bring my knight to d5, bring my knight to h4 and f5, and start controlling those squares. Bishop d6, rook d1, just asserting my dominance on this file. Rook d8, knight h4, following up with my idea of knight f5, going for it. And now g3, just playing a prophylactic move, playing it slowly. If you don't know what prophylactic move is, you gotta check it out. It's basically where you make a move that prevents your opponent's plan. So obviously my opponent wanted to say, I'm gonna copy you, I think your plan is cool, I'm gonna play my knight to f4. But here I push this pawn to g3 and say, you know what, you can't do this to me. I'm just a poor little soul. So knight e7, what is the tactic here? You see that, okay. The knight has options, right? It has options. It can get laid or it can just entertain itself. But there's an even better option, right? So it's a very tactical sequence, but it's all about figuring out, okay, this piece defends this piece, right? So what can we do to remove the piece so that I can take this piece? And the immediate spotting of this tactic that I found, it's all based on practice, right? Practice. I forgot which basketball player said that. Was it Iverson? He might have said practice. I don't know. Something like that. Something about practice. But practice really pays off when you spot something like rook takes d6 right away. So rook takes d6. What happens? So after rook takes d6, knight takes knight. And white gets 2 pieces for this one rook. Right? And that's obviously a good thing. But what happens if, let's say, knight takes f5, right? Well, then there's rook takes d8, queen takes d8, and e takes f5, and now white is up 1 bishop, so 1 bishop and 1 pawn, so this would be game winning. So rook takes d6, knight takes, and let me plop my knight on d5, and now knight takes d5 wasn't the best move. The reason being, remember to think about whether the trade benefits you or does you a disservice. And in this case, it does black a big disservice. Number one, by saying, I'm submitting to my will, I'm opening up for white's queen. In addition, look at this, right? The bishop right here, the knight can plop comfortably in, also giving the chance to play bishop a3, knight a4, go for this weak pawn. It goes to show that, even something like knight d7, just guarding the c5 pawn a little bit more would have helped out. But it's not what happened in the game. In the game, it was all, let me just pin that and pin to win. So essentially in this game, what really caused the downfall of NiceChessD? Well, I have to say it really came down to the wire. This game was really close again. And I felt like rook b8, wonderful move. And after queen c4, obviously it was my mistake here. Bishop a6 probably was the best move. You could have also considered queen a2, also a thought. But when c5 struck, it sort of solidified my pawn advantage. I said knight g5, queen e2, and you'll see that, by allowing me to play c4, I'm getting back into the game, and especially with the help of an extra pawn and extra weak squares, it makes the difference. And so my plan was really simple from that point on, right? You saw at this point I was lost. Like, black was in control of manipulating the queen, and these pieces weren't getting out. So black is in a good shape here. But once this c4 happened, rook d1, knight c3, you saw the tide turn, right? You saw the momentum shift from black to white. And so, especially with this tactic, the favor of being able to say, I might go here, or I might go here, it just goes to show how much of a difference in spirit it was. So let's go to our next game. Our next game is, of course, against NiceChessD. And so after e4, right, c5, knight f3, e6. So our friend NiceChessD plays the Khan variation, the Sicilian, and I go for what is called the Kramnik variation, or sometimes, people call this a Maroczy Bind structure. A pawn on c4, a pawn on e4, white pushes d4, and this is what is called a Maroczy Bind structure. Now, some people call it the Kramnik variation, named after none other than former world champion Vladimir Kramnik, who is a current, still very strong player who teaches and does great things for chess. So after d4, knight takes, and you'll see that I sort of, in this position, I forget what to do. I'm gonna be honest, I forgot what to do here. Queen b6, it could have been knight c2, it could have been knight b3 or knight b5. I don't remember. I played knight c2 just thinking, you know what, let's get out of the game. And here bishop c5 came, and ultimately I was like, oh, no, I'm in trouble. Right? Because how do you really defend f2? I chose to defend f2 with queen e2. But the problem is this bishop doesn't get out unless g3, bishop g2 happens, and castles. And that's going to take a while, right? And by that time, maybe black will have broken with d5. And even if I try knight a4, this queen a5 check, just saying, you know what, I'm going to target both pieces. And if you can't visualize those, you'll see what I mean. So d6 happens, and I play rook b1. You'll notice that I'm sort of saying, I can't do this anymore, right? But I can do it this way. I can play a3, I can play b4. And here, NiceChessD plays a brilliant move. Knight plays the move a5. And what a5 does is says, if you play b4, I'm just going to snatch it off. And if you play a3, I'm just going to play a4 and just maybe en passant, do it the French way. And here I leave you with this position. Bishop e3, just simply saying, I'm going to neutralize your bishop, I'm going to trade it. So I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and please, have fun.